National health surveys reveal that nearly half of women over 60 continue to masturbate regularly, but society has convinced them to feel guilty, embarrassed, even broken for it. The truth is shocking. Your body still craves connection, and science proves it is not only normal, it's healthy. Let's break the silence and see what research really says. Hello, I'm Dr. Eliza Hart, a board-certified gynecologist with over 20 years of experience guiding women through menopause and beyond. I've sat across from thousands of women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who lowered their voice to ask me the same question: is it normal that I still touch myself? These women weren't sick and they weren't broken. They were carrying the weight of cultural myths that had silenced them for decades. For far too long, we've been told that intimacy is reserved for the young, that once your hormones shift, your desire should vanish. That belief has left many women ashamed of their own bodies, hiding a part of themselves that is not only natural, but vital to their health. Science now tells us the opposite: masturbation after 60 can improve sleep, reduce stress, support pelvic health, and even strengthen emotional well-being. That's why this conversation matters, because the numbers don't just show what women are doing, they reveal what society has been ignoring. And in this video, I'll share with you how often women over 60 truly masturbate, why they continue the barriers that hold them back, and the surprising factor that predicts whether you'll keep experiencing pleasure in your later years. So stay with me. Subscribe if you haven't already, and type 1 in the comments if this resonates with you, or 0 if it doesn't. Let's uncover the science together. 1. Why this conversation matters. For decades, women over 60 have been told either directly or subtly that their sexual health is irrelevant, that their desires should fade away quietly, and that discussions of intimacy are somehow inappropriate at their age. These messages have not only silenced women, but also created an invisible wall of shame that isolates them from one another. When a woman in her 60s wonders privately if she is abnormal for still feeling arousal, it is not because her body has failed her. It is because society has failed to give her the truth. As a physician, I have witnessed how this silence creates unnecessary suffering. Many of my patients confide that they believed they were alone, that no one else their age still had interest in self-pleasure. Yet the reality is very different. When conversations are hidden, myths take root, and those myths convince women that their bodies are somehow betraying them. The truth is that intimacy, whether shared with a partner or explored individually, is a natural part of health that continues throughout life. Acknowledging this openly is not about encouraging behavior for its own sake. It is about reclaiming dignity, confidence, and the right to accurate medical knowledge. When women understand that sexual wellness is not bound by age, they begin to see that their questions are valid and that their health deserves attention at every stage. Breaking the silence allows women to compare reality with myth, and more importantly, to recognize that their bodies are capable of joy long after menopause. This conversation matters because it restores balance. Instead of defining sexuality through decline and loss, we can define it through resilience, vitality, and continuity. Self-pleasure is not the enemy of aging. It is often a gentle reminder that the body is still responsive, still alive, and still deserving of care. By naming the truth, we remove the burden of secrecy and create space for women to approach their health with openness rather than guilt. Equally important, acknowledging the role of intimacy after 60 allows us to view aging through a more accurate medical lens. Senior sexual health is not a contradiction. It is an essential component of quality of life. Recognizing this fact not only empowers women individually, it also reshapes how society, families, and even healthcare providers understand the true scope of women's well-being. And this is precisely where the medical perspective becomes essential, because while culture has encouraged silence, research has revealed a much more surprising and hopeful reality. 2. Scientific research findings. When we look beyond assumptions and focus on data, the reality of women's intimacy after 60 becomes impossible to ignore. Large population surveys conducted in the United States and Europe have consistently demonstrated that self-pleasure is not a rare exception, but a common part of senior women's lives. The National Survey of Sexual Health and Behavior, one of the most comprehensive studies in the U.S., revealed that nearly half of women aged 60 to 79 reported masturbating at least once in the past month. Even more striking, between 15 and 20% of these women describe masturbation as a weekly practice, making it a routine rather than an occasional occurrence. European data confirm this trend. Studies from Sweden, Germany, and the United Kingdom found that 20 to 40% of women between 60 and 79 continue to engage in self-pleasure with frequency, varying depending on cultural background, level of education, and overall health status. These figures are important because they not only highlight the persistence of desire, but also challenge the outdated stereotype that sexual activity naturally declines to zero with age. Instead, they suggest that sexuality adapts and continues even when other aspects of health change. The variation in frequency is also revealing. Some women report weekly or bi-weekly habits, while others describe occasional experiences. But the central fact remains: desire does not simply disappear after menopause. What differs is the way women interpret and act on that desire. Those who view intimacy as a normal part of self-care tend to continue, while those who internalize shame or outdated beliefs are more likely to suppress their needs. From a medical perspective, these findings carry weight far beyond curiosity. They demonstrate that the female body remains capable of arousal and orgasm well into later life, and that the nervous system, pelvic blood flow, and hormonal responses continue to function. This means that pleasure is not a sign of abnormality. It is a sign of continued vitality. Research also shows that the biggest barrier to accurate understanding is not biology, but silence. When health professionals fail to raise these topics, women assume they are alone, which reinforces the cycle of stigma. By bringing scientific evidence forward, we make it clear that senior sexuality is not marginal, but rather a well-documented and essential aspect of women's health. And once we see what the numbers truly reveal, the next question naturally arises: why do women over 60 continue to masturbate? And what deeper purposes does it serve in their health and daily lives? 3. Why women continue. Behind every statistic is a human story, and the reasons women over 60 continue to masturbate are far more meaningful than a simple number on a survey. For many, self-pleasure is not just about physical release. It is a reliable, private, and deeply personal tool for maintaining emotional balance and overall health. When I ask my patients what motivates them to continue, the answers are remarkably consistent: relief from daily stress, better sleep, improved mood, and above all, a way to feel connected to their bodies again. Decades of caregiving, professional responsibilities, and social expectations have taught many women to put their needs last. After retirement or widowhood, some finally discover that intimacy with themselves is one of the few areas where they can truly prioritize their own well-being without judgment. A quiet moment of pleasure can release oxytocin and endorphins, hormones that calm the nervous system and support restorative sleep. For women who struggle with anxiety or loneliness, this simple act becomes an important coping strategy, improving resilience in ways medication alone cannot achieve. Another common theme I hear is empowerment. Women tell me that masturbation is the first time in years they felt genuinely in control of their own bodies. Unlike partnered intimacy, which can sometimes involve pressure or expectation, self-pleasure allows them to explore freely and on their own terms. For single or widowed women, this autonomy is invaluable. It is not a substitute for companionship, but a reminder that their sexuality and identity do not vanish with age. The health dimension cannot be overlooked either. Regular arousal improves pelvic blood flow, supporting tissue health and maintaining elasticity. It also engages the pelvic floor muscles, which play a crucial role in bladder control and mobility. These small physiological benefits accumulate over time, offering protection against conditions that many assume are inevitable in later years. Hearing these stories reinforces what the data already suggest. Women continue not out of habit, but because the practice meets genuine physical and emotional needs. It is an act of self-care resilience and personal dignity. If you've ever thought about what keeps women in their 60s and 70s engaged in this intimate practice, I'd like to hear your perspective. Share in the comments what surprised you most about these findings, or what questions you would like me to explore in future videos. Your voice helps shape these conversations, and you may be surprised how many others silently share your experience. And as we reflect on these personal motivations, it becomes equally important to recognize the barriers that stand in the way, because understanding why women continue is only half the story. 4. The barriers older women face. Understanding why women continue to seek intimacy after 60 is only part of the picture. It is equally important to acknowledge the barriers that prevent others from doing so. In clinical practice, I meet women who carry not just questions, but heavy layers of shame, fear, and uncertainty. These obstacles are rarely about what the body can or cannot do. More often, they are about what society has taught women to believe. The first and most powerful barrier is cultural conditioning. Many women internalize messages heard throughout their lives that pleasure is inappropriate, selfish, or reserved only for younger years. By the time they reach their 60s, these beliefs are so deeply rooted that the very thought of touching themselves provokes guilt. This psychological weight is far more disabling than any biological change because it convinces women to silence their curiosity before it even finds expression. For some, decades of silence have turned natural desire into a source of inner conflict. The second barrier lies in physical changes brought on by menopause and aging. Declining estrogen can cause vaginal dryness and thinning of tissues, a condition medically known as genitourinary syndrome of menopause. Some women also experience joint pain, limited mobility, or chronic illness that makes sexual activity less comfortable. Unfortunately, instead of seeking solutions, many accept these challenges as signs that intimacy is no longer possible. In reality, medical options such as lubricants, local estrogen therapy, or simple adjustments in technique can often make a profound difference when properly explained. A third and often overlooked barrier is relational. Widowed or single women may wonder if self-pleasure is acceptable outside the context of a partnership. Others in long-term relationships may feel disconnected from their partners and assume that intimacy must vanish altogether. Caregiving responsibilities, stress, and fatigue also crowd out time for personal attention, leaving little space for curiosity or exploration. Each of these barriers reinforces the others. Shame discourages women from seeking help. Physical discomfort strengthens the belief that aging means decline, and silence in relationships leaves them feeling isolated. The result is a cycle where women abandon a source of comfort and vitality, not because they lack desire, but because they believe desire itself has become inappropriate. Recognizing these barriers matters, because once they are named, they can be addressed. Knowledge transforms guilt into permission, and medical support turns discomfort into possibility. And when women overcome these barriers, what follows is not just the return of pleasure, but a cascade of benefits for both body and mind. 5. The health benefits after 60. When barriers are addressed and women feel free to explore intimacy without guilt, what emerges is not just comfort, but measurable health benefits. Sexual wellness after 60 is often framed as optional, yet clinical evidence shows it has tangible effects on the body and mind. Far from being frivolous, self-pleasure functions as a safe, accessible, and scientifically supported form of self-care. One of the most immediate benefits is stress relief. During orgasm, the body releases endorphins, oxytocin, and dopamine chemicals that elevate mood, reduce anxiety, and calm the nervous system. For women navigating retirement, caregiving, or the emotional shifts of aging, these natural responses provide resilience. Patients frequently tell me that a simple moment of intimacy can restore balance to a day otherwise filled with tension. Over time, this stress reduction contributes to better cardiovascular health and improved immune function. Sleep quality is another critical area. Many women after menopause struggle with insomnia, waking in the middle of the night with racing thoughts. Masturbation can act as a natural sleep aid, promoting relaxation and signaling the body to rest. Unlike medications, it carries no side effects and reinforces the body's own rhythm. Women who practice it regularly often report falling asleep faster and waking with more energy, noticing improvements not only in rest but also in daytime concentration. The physical benefits extend further. Increased blood flow to the pelvic region supports tissue elasticity and nourishment, helping to counter the dryness and fragility that often accompany lower estrogen levels. Regular stimulation also engages the pelvic floor muscles, reducing the risk of urinary leakage and maintaining mobility. These are not minor concerns. They are essential to maintaining independence and dignity in daily life. Women who stay consistent often find daily activities easier, from exercise to social engagement, because pelvic health is directly tied to overall vitality. Psychological benefits are equally powerful. Self-pleasure reinforces body awareness, allowing women to remain connected to sensations and preferences that may otherwise fade with disuse. Many describe a renewed sense of vitality, confidence, and even creativity. For women who have felt invisible or dismissed due to age, these moments of autonomy remind them that their needs remain valid and worthy of attention. The broader impact is that masturbation reframes aging itself. Rather than seeing the body as declining, women learn to experience it as adaptive and responsive. In this light, pleasure becomes a celebration of resilience, not a denial of age. And this leads to one of the most surprising insights revealed by research. The single most important factor predicting whether women continue after 60 is not biology at all, but mindset. 6. The most surprising predictor. After decades of research, one finding stands out as both unexpected and deeply meaningful. The strongest predictor of whether a woman continues to masturbate after 60 is not age hormone levels or even relationship status. It is mindset. How a woman perceives sexuality and whether she believes pleasure is still valuable in later life determines more than any biological factor. I have seen women in their 70s dealing with arthritis or other chronic conditions continue to embrace self-pleasure simply because they viewed it as a normal and important part of health. Conversely, I have met women in their early 60s, physically healthy, who stopped entirely because they had absorbed the cultural message that intimacy should fade away. In both cases, the body was capable. The difference was belief. This distinction highlights how powerful cultural narratives can be. For decades, society has portrayed aging as decline, with sexuality framed as irrelevant or even inappropriate. When women internalize this message, they unconsciously set limits on themselves, assuming that desire is shameful or unworthy of attention. Yet when that mindset is challenged, when women learn that science validates their experiences, something transformative happens. They give themselves permission to reconnect with their bodies, often with surprising results. From a clinical perspective, this is encouraging because it shows that change is possible at any stage. Unlike hormone levels, which decline naturally with age, mindset can be reshaped. Conversations with healthcare providers, exposure to accurate information, and supportive communities all help women adopt a healthier view of sexuality. And once they do, the frequency and quality of their intimate experiences often improve, not because their biology changed, but because their perspective did. Mindset also influences emotional well-being. Women who approach intimacy with curiosity and acceptance frequently report higher confidence, better mood, and even improved relationships with partners. By contrast, those who hold on to guilt or self-criticism often carry heavier emotional burdens, which can spill into other areas of life. In this way, the choice to see pleasure as natural becomes not only a personal decision, but also a powerful driver of overall quality of life. What this tells us is that aging does not dictate the end of intimacy. Beliefs do. And when those beliefs shift, women often find themselves reclaiming joy, energy, and connection in ways they thought were lost forever. The question then becomes, how can women actively nurture this healthier mindset in daily life and apply practical strategies to support comfort, pleasure, and well-being? Shifting mindset is powerful, but it becomes even more meaningful when paired with simple, practical steps that women can integrate into daily life. These strategies are not about reinventing yourself, but about gently creating conditions that allow comfort, pleasure, and confidence to flourish. The first step is reducing shame by normalizing the conversation with yourself. Remind yourself that intimacy is not defined by age. Keeping a journal or simply acknowledging your curiosity without judgment can help release long-held guilt. By reframing self-pleasure as self-care, women often discover they approach the experience with more relaxation and less hesitation. Addressing physical comfort is equally important. For women who notice dryness or sensitivity, using a quality water-based lubricant can significantly improve ease and enjoyment. Small adjustments such as choosing a supportive position or creating a warm, private environment also enhance relaxation. These are not luxuries, they are practical tools that make intimacy sustainable. Exploration can also include gentle experimentation. Some women prefer a purely hands-on approach, while others benefit from modern aids designed to provide consistent stimulation. The choice is personal, and there is no right or wrong way. What matters is curiosity and patience, allowing the body to respond at its own pace. Finally, consistency matters. Treating self-pleasure as an occasional indulgence often leaves women feeling hesitant, while integrating it as a quiet ritual weekly or whenever the body signals the need reinforces both physical benefits and emotional connection. Over time, these practices strengthen not only pelvic health, but also confidence and mood. By combining mindset shifts with practical steps, women after 60 can reframe intimacy as a lifelong companion rather than a closed chapter. And in doing so, they reclaim a powerful part of health, autonomy, and joy. As we close this conversation, let's bring the focus back to what the science and stories have revealed. Masturbation after 60 is not a sign of decline. It is evidence of resilience, vitality, and the body's remarkable ability to adapt. We've seen that nearly half of women over 60 continue to practice it. That mindset matters more than biology, and that the benefits reach far beyond pleasure. Reduced stress, better sleep, improved pelvic health, and renewed confidence are all part of this larger picture. The lesson is clear. Intimacy has no expiration date. Whether you explore frequently, occasionally, or not at all, the choice belongs to you and you alone. What matters is that you give yourself permission to honor your body without guilt, comparison, or silence. Treat self-pleasure as you would any other form of health maintenance, a gentle ritual that nurtures both body and spirit. My advice is to start small without pressure. Pay attention to comfort, use the tools that support you, and listen to your own rhythm. And most importantly, remember that your worth and vitality are not diminished by age. They evolve and they continue to deserve recognition. If today's video gave you new insight or reassurance, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share your thoughts, your questions, or even just a word of encouragement for others who may be listening quietly. And if you found value here, please subscribe and join me for more honest conversations about women's health after 50. Thank you for allowing me to share this space with you. You are not too late and you are never alone. This is where a new chapter of self-care and confidence truly begins.